Well, welcome, Facebook Live viewers. This is the Bond and Bodis Law Offices Facebook Live. And we are very fortunate today to have my good friend and longtime law partner. She started in high school, Suzanne Shin. Suzanne, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Brad. And you stole my line. I always tell people I was a child prodigy. I actually graduated law school when I was 14.
Well, I thought it was younger than that.
That's right.
To our viewers, we've been doing our Facebook Live event. And I'm sorry, 2020, when a lot of us started staying home. And we have tried to cover various topics just to give you some information as to events happening, things that we think are helpful to you. But I want everybody watching to know that the Bond and Bodis law offices are located throughout Alabama, throughout Mississippi, and in the Knoxville area in Tennessee. And we help people with money problems, and we know a lot of y'all are having financial challenges right now. I think everybody is, but our offices, with what's going on, we're offering absolutely free initial consultations. We're doing them from the safety, from the comfort of your own home or office. We'll do them by video, like Suzanne and I are talking today, or we'll do them by telephone. Whatever makes you feel comfortable, but please reach out for help. Just get as much advice as you can. So I want to tell you a little bit about my friend and law partner, Suzanne Shin. We have I'm sorry, we're having some connection issues here. But Suzanne has practiced law in our office in Birmingham, Alabama. Suzanne is married. Her husband, Richard, is also a great friend. And Suzanne's son, who I will call Nathaniel, even though he's grown up now and goes by Nate, I've known since he was just knee-high. So Suzanne is a great friend and a great attorney. She's been helping people in the Birmingham area for Suzanne. I hate to say it, but over a couple of decades now, close to 3 decades, we've been working together, helping people with financial problems.
That's where that child prodigy thing comes in, Brad.
Suzanne is one of the top bankruptcy attorneys in Alabama, and well respected by all the members of the bankruptcy bar and members of the bench also. So I think we're fortunate today to be able to talk to Suzanne about an important topic. And the topic today is stimulus checks. Many of us have already received our second stimulus checks. Some are yet to receive them, but it's a little bit of money that we're getting to help out right now. And to show you that I'm not the only one that's impressed with Suzanne's expertise, our local ABC affiliate recently interviewed Suzanne on this topic. And Suzanne gave some great advice. So we decided we were going to do a Facebook Live and dive a little bit deeper into this. Suzanne, am I missing anything important about your background that you'd like to add for our viewers?
Well, you're very kind to say all those words. I don't know about all of those accolades and so forth. I will say that nearly 30 years ago, I cannot believe it. In fact, I started practicing 30 years ago. I was with another bankruptcy firm when I first started practicing. And just for the viewers out there and to sort of give a little background, I had been working in a law office all the way through undergraduate and law school. So that's how I made my way through. I wasn't smart enough to have scholarships, but, God just sort of carried me through and made the provision. I was able to work for a couple of different attorneys during those years. And so it did take me a little bit longer to get through school, but I will say one of the things that meant so much to me that may be sort of a missing component, I think, for a lot of the younger generation is I had to work my way through. So I really appreciated, paying that tuition, eking it out, and having free time and so forth and so on. But all of that to say, what I appreciate most from that was the practical experience, the life lessons that I learned, the things that I went through going through undergraduate and then law school. I had a baby halfway through law school. And so, I really did have to learn a lot about using money practically. I want to tell people from the get-go, right out of the box. And Brad, you may be sad that you sort of handed the mic to me because you may not get it back. But anyway, right out of the box, I want to tell people first and foremost, all of the attorneys that are with Bond and Botus, when you call us, you are not going to get any criticism or judgment or anything like that from us, because I wish I could tell you I got everything right all along the way. I did not. But such is the practicality of working in this particular arena of the law. There is so much that we all learn from our mistakes. And, it's great if you can learn from your own mistakes, but it's even better if you can learn from other people's mistakes. And I think over the years, what I encourage people when I'm talking with them is that if you're going through a difficult season in your life, especially financially, please understand we all have seasons in our lives.
Right.
And so we have all been through, anybody that's watching, unless you were living under a rock or in a cave during 2020, we have all been through some pretty amazing times this last year during 2020. And I'm hoping that we can all walk away with, boy, I have learned some things during 2020. And one of the things that I learned, and my husband and I are really trying to practice, is understanding the importance of saving money. And so when I had that interview a couple of weeks ago with ABC 3340, and she asked me, I thought it was going to be more in line with what to do, if you're thinking about filing bankruptcy during the pandemic. So when we began to discuss about the stimulus money, I thought back on the last round of stimulus that we received, and how I have talked with so many people over the course of the 6 months or so since we received that money. And I would say most people don't have that stimulus check money anymore, the $1,200 that we received last year, or $1,200 a piece, I should say. If you're married, you got $2,400 and so forth, and then whatever child benefits you got as well. But most people don't have any of that money left. And I was right in that vein. So what we talked about, though, during the interview was one of the most important things that I think you can do with that stimulus money, if at all possible, first and foremost, is to save that money. I want to come back to that in just a minute after I say what I have found over the course of time in talking with people during the last 30 years, really. So this is just not limited to the stimulus money. but it also, we're coming up on tax refund time, and a lot of people get a lot of money in their tax refund. And honestly, it hurts my heart as I've talked to people over the years that they get any kind of tax refund or a stimulus check, and then they don't have anything to show for it almost immediately, because what that money a lot of times is used for is to maybe buy those things that I would like to say really should be put on the back burner. And those things are elements of our life, such as furniture and clothing.
Right.
Those are not necessarily what I would call the most essential. I think people got stimulus money and just had a tendency not to use it for, bills and so forth. And they would, hey, I've got this money. I've been wanting to get this new TV, or I've been wanting to get this new phone, or I've been wanting to get this new, these new shoes or whatever. And those are dispensable items that honestly, so many of us realize a lot of times after we get them, the luster of those things fades so quickly, and we almost live in regret. So what I have tried to encourage people to do with this stimulus money, and I do every year with the tax refund money, is really, if you can set yourself up on a program where you can start saving money. If you have to use part of that money to pay some bills and so forth, but can set aside even $100 of that money, and then map out a course to be able to start saving money, you're going to have a fallback and a reserve. And what I've learned over the years is so many people, we've become a society that, and again, this is something we've had to learn as a family, but we live paycheck to paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, and we've got nothing in reserve for, I always tell people, you never need one tire. You always need 2 or 4
Right.
for your car.
Right.
You've got major car repairs and so forth. And some people don't even eke out enough or save enough or set enough aside to have their oil changed. And so, we have to look at life from a practical standpoint. And one of the things I shared in a blog post that I wrote after the TV interview was, I had a client's brother share with me. This client's brother was helping him sort of navigate through some things in his Chapter 13 case. And he shared with me something that I thought was so practical and so wonderful. And that was, he said, what we're discussing is we are wanting to look at the difference between wants and needs.
Right.
And so many of us, we've lived in a society in a world where, we really can, for the most part, go out and get what we want. And we can use credit to do so. And I think we're coming into times, we saw it last year and we might see it some this year, some things where we have to think practically, and we have to be vision-minded and realize the importance of setting out goals and aspirations of things that you want to see to come to pass in your life, and not and sort of categorize these things of, is this really a need or is this really more of a want? And that's kind of where my husband and I have landed over the last year or so is when these unexpected things come up, we're learning the importance of having something set aside. And for instance, we all kind of got in the whole, and it became more of a joke, and it was fortunately added some levity to the situation. But many people were out scrambling around trying to find toilet paper and, paper towels, because, that's just not something that they necessarily would have on hand. But we're kind of learning through this last year and what we've all been through, the importance of being on target and kind of listing out these things of, this is what we might need to be prepared for. And so anytime you want to jump in, Brad, certainly feel free to, because I can keep on, keep on going.
No, I think you're doing a great job of covering the primary points here. This money is money that we need to use as smartly as possible. Don't just go out and spend it right away. Listen to advice from people like you, Suzanne, who have dealt with these type issues, and really put some thought into how you use this money as it becomes available, because we don't know if or when we're going to get another stimulus check.
That's right.
And I do want to say one other thing, Suzanne, and you explained during your introduction that you kind of had to work your way through law school, through college. Folks, that is what makes Suzanne such a good attorney. She's been there. She knows what people are going through. She didn't have everything paid for. She wasn't able to just go and, go to some big law school where she just did nothing but hang out in the library. She had to work her way through, and she did it working for a bankruptcy attorney, helping individuals. So she knows this business from the bottom up. I also want to say just real quickly, like many of y'all, Suzanne and I, you can probably see, are both working from home today. So I apologize for the technical issues. We hope we'll keep our connection going forward. But no, Suzanne, what you're saying is spot on. I do want to take a quick break here and remind our viewers, the Bond and Modus Law offices help people with money problems. And I will underscore what Suzanne says. Every one of our attorneys are people that care about our clients' interests. We try to treat our clients like family. We try to give the advice we would give to a family member to our clients. And if you reach out for help right now, and again, we're offering absolutely free initial consultations. We're not going to get you on the phone and try to talk you into anything. We want to listen to your situation. We want to help you come up with the solution that's best. So again, if you are having financial challenges, or you think they may be on the horizon, or somebody, encourage them to reach out for help. Be proactive. Reach out. Make sure you understand your options. Make sure you understand how to use this money that you may have available right now, and more importantly, how not to use it. Suzanne, I want to make sure I'll let you finish your line of thought here, because what you're saying is so good, but we do have some questions coming in from viewers that I want to make sure we get to also.
Okay.
So, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
What I was going to say, I'm glad you sort of brought us back around to the fact that we do offer free consultations. I want to remind people too, in that vein of thought, just because you call our office, don't feel like the only avenue that you are that's going to be discussed is bankruptcy.
Right.
We do other things that help people with their debts and financial solutions. We offer a service to look at their credit report, see if there's any credit report disputes on their credit that we may bring, and that may result in a monetary recovery for somebody. We want to talk to you if you're getting collection letters from collection agencies. We want to be able to help you review those letters. We want to look through them, see if there's any FDCPA violations. And I don't want to get off on a tangent, but FDCPA is the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And there, as I explained to people, there are certain things that collectors can say in correspondence that they send to you, and there are certain things they cannot say in correspondence that they send to you. And so we want to review those letters. We want to take a look at them and see if we can help you. If there's violations in those letters, we may be able to recover money for you.
That's right.
And that may result in just a boon. I mean, I've always said, hey, $50 is better than no dollars, even if that was the only thing you got out of it. You know, that was something you didn't have before. But so I think it's so important. People, a lot of times when they're picking up the phone to make that call to our office, to maybe schedule a time for one of us to talk with you, they kind of feel, first of all, I think in the umbrella of things, the overweening feeling with most people is a sense of failure. But what I want to encourage you is, please don't feel that way, because I mean, you're taking a first step to gain knowledge. And what I just real quick before you plug in something here, Brad, so I don't forget it, because this is one thing I don't have written down. But I love to tell people that and encourage them that oftentimes when we're having what we feel like are financial problems, we're not having financial problems, we're having wisdom problems. And that's where picking up the phone and calling and talking with an attorney that can sort of walk you through things, you don't have to commit to anything. That's not why we're on the phone. We're on the phone to try and help you understand what avenues there are available to you. And, you know, there's a verse in Proverbs in the Bible that says, there is wisdom in a multitude of counselors. So we as attorneys oftentimes see ourselves more as counselors. And, you know, in many different facets of our lives, whether it's you're having a difficult time in a relationship with a family member or whatever, a lot of times what we need is wisdom in that scenario, not just, hey, I got to get a quick fix here. And a lot of people feel like bankruptcy is a quick fix. It can fix your situation, but what our end goal is to help you recover after the bankruptcy, whether it's a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13. We want to put you on a path to recovery. We want to be there afterwards, and we are there afterwards to, again, help you check your credit report, help you look for things that might not still be being reported correctly on your credit history after a bankruptcy. So I feel like that's what puts us as a firm, going back to the beginning of what I started with. I worked with other bankruptcy lawyers, and I never will forget when I first interviewed with you and Mark Bond. I was so nervous and so forth. And then when I accepted the position, you invited me to come and sit in on some consultations. And again, I'd been doing consultations with people, but the way that I saw you both interact with people, the respect and dignity that you showed to people, the way you explained the process and so forth, it just did something on the inside of me. And I was just so thankful that I had accepted the position. And so all of that to say, I want to encourage people, if you are having difficulties financially in any area or with every area, if you feel like everything's up in the air, please don't hesitate to call one of our offices and or to call us and reach out and let us be on the phone with you and encourage you that there are good answers out there. It may not even have to be a bankruptcy.
That's right. That's right, Susanna. Boy, I can just throw away my notes because you're covering everything for us and doing a great job. But isn't it, you talked about those initial consultations, isn't it such a good feeling to help somebody address their issues, come up with a plan to overcome their financial challenges? It's just, I could do this another 30 years plus and still get the same joy out of helping somebody find that solution, because people are just so overwhelmed often when they come to us.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
want to go ahead,
Go ahead.
Suzanne. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, I couldn't even begin to tell you and count the number of people who have said, oh my goodness, I'm so thankful that I called and had this discussion with you, because I've gotten answers. I understand there's a path, or a couple of different paths,
right.
a couple of different ways we can carve this ham, if you will. And now I feel like I've got a light, and I understand that I can go forward in the future. So before I get on to my next topic, have you got questions that you want to ask?
I do have some questions that have come in from others that I want to address with you. But you have mentioned bankruptcy and some of the other things we do. I want to encourage our viewers, not just this Facebook Live episode, but all of the Facebook Live episodes we've done are available on our Facebook page. And if you know somebody that may benefit, please refer them back. For instance, last week, I spoke with my partner, Robert Reese, and we just talked about bankruptcy generally and different bankruptcy options that may be available. We've talked to people about vaccines, physicians, infectious disease specialists. We've talked to doctors about whether or not it is important to wear a face mask. By the way, the doctor thought it was important to wear a face mask, and just so many issues that impact people. So please go to either our Facebook page or go to our website, where we have all of our past videos and many different blog topics of interest. Suzanne wrote one just recently about this very issue that we're addressing today. Suzanne, let me go ahead. If you had something you wanted to throw in before I get to these questions, please go ahead.
Okay. Something just triggered in my mind that I wanted to cover, that I think is very important. And again, this is something that my husband and I are sort of focusing on this year. My son has been great about it over the years. And I know a lot of people set goals in January. I've kind of gotten away from the term goal setting, just simply because I think what that does, at least for me in my life, when you make New Year's resolutions and so forth, there's nothing wrong with goal setting, of course,
right.
Or even New Year's resolutions. But I feel like for me in my own life, I had to label that differently, because I would get discouraged. We've all had, weight goals or, health goals or something like that we've set at the beginning of the year, resolutions and so forth. And 2 weeks into it, that's out the window. You don't even remember what it was and so forth. But I wanted to just sort of quickly go over something that I've sort of implemented for the end of the year and then on into this year. And that is the importance, I feel like, as we've seen so many things changing during the last 9-10 months,
Oh boy, yeah.
To say the least. There's a verse in the Bible in Habakkuk. It's Habakkuk 2. And Habakkuk was an Old Testament prophet, and he was kind of crying out to the Lord and saying, God, have you forgotten us? And, everything's so bad, and everything's just kind of just seems like there's no justice anywhere, and everything's terrible, and we're disunified and so forth. Boy, doesn't that sound like today?
Yes, it does.
Wow.
Yes, it does.
That's all in Habakkuk 1. And then when you get to Habakkuk 2, he receives a prophecy, and it is to write the vision. Write the vision so that he that sees it can run with it.
Okay.
Well, that came to my mind, and I wanted to just suggest to people that as they're getting their stimulus money, and as we go back to, again, this is tax return money, our tax refund season, I should say. People are going to be getting some money, and some of them very significant amounts. And I just want to encourage people right now, Brad, to, if they haven't ever done it before, maybe even before they know the amount that they're going to get or whatever, but sit down and write out what you see yourself doing with this money. I think a perspective, 2020, there were a lot of phrases that 2020's hindsight now. Yes, people used to joke, Pat Dye, the Auburn football coach, used to say, hindsight's 50-50, not 2020.
All right.
But, okay, 2020 is in our rear view mirror, but 2020, as I wrote in that blog post, also the term having 2020 vision means you have perfect vision. And so what I really felt was so important during 2020, the latter part of 2020, was to start writing down things, new visions, things that I wanted to see come to pass in my life, and focusing on positive things, not so much the negative, because, God has good for us. There are good promises. I tell my sweet son all the time, he's in the restaurant business, guys. So he and his wife, oh my goodness, they have, they've got 2 restaurants and a coffee shop, and it has been some difficult kind of 2020. But I've said to him for years the fact that there's a wonderful verse in Jeremiah 29:11, and it says, "I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and give you good success." And he didn't put a comma at the end of that, Brad, and say, if you're going to church all the time, comma, if you've got all your finances together,
right,
comma, if you're living a good life, comma, if you're doing good service. There was no comma at the end of that. It was just, I know the plans that I have for you. And so if you've got visions, if you've got things in your life that you would love to see come to pass, I just encourage you, 2021, to start writing those things down and start checking them off as they do come to pass, and see yourself with some positivity, some things that are, see yourself in a good light, and with good things coming your way, with blessings that are coming your way. Now that 2020 is behind us, and 2020 wasn't all bad. I mean, we learned a lot during 2020. Many of us did. And, we've had family that has grown closer together because we were locked down. We had a lot of positive things happen. I know for me, you had been trying to get me on a technology train for years. And I'm one of these people, I like to see written notes and write everything down. But 2020 was a fabulous year for me to really grow in that area. And so if you have to, even write down some of the positive things that you can think of that happened during 2020, and then write down some expectations, some visions, some things that you have on a go forward basis, and keep those things realistic. Because I think what we run into a lot of times is we get disappointed with unmet expectations. And we got to realize that there's nobody perfect. We're not going to get everything right. I've faced financial challenges over the years. I've faced relationship problems over the years. We don't all get it right. I wish we did. And we have a tendency to look at somebody else who might seem to have it all together, but we really don't know. And so I want to encourage people that if you feel like you've been drowning, if you feel depressed, if you feel like, I just can't cope with this anymore. Well, let's talk that through. Call one of us. Let's talk that through and see what we can do to work together as a team to help each other. Because you and I both know, for instance, we would not have made it through 2020 without our team, and whether that's family or whether that's office and each other, we do have people that can be our team and help us work through stuff. So,
boy, Suzanne, I'm just going to stop talking at all and let you just take the lead here, because just good, solid advice here. Folks, if you need help, if you need someone to talk to, as Suzanne said, you can call the number on your screen, or you can go to our website. If you're not quite ready to, make that phone call, go to our website. It's on your screen, and we have answers to a lot of your questions there. We try to give the best information possible there. And then there's a form on that site that you can fill out when you're ready, and just click, and we'll contact you about scheduling a consultation at a time that's good and convenient for you.
Yeah, Brad, and thank you for bringing that up, because that did cross my mind a few minutes ago. Is a lot of times when I'm about to jump off the phone with someone and we've maybe talked for 20 or 30 minutes, it doesn't have to be a long conversation, or it can be as long as you need. That's one of the things we have always implemented in our offices is we don't have a timer set and say, okay, your timer started, you got 20 minutes to tell me, let's get through this because I got to move on to the next. In fact, I had to, I was on the phone with someone the other day. I had a kind of back-to-back appointments. And so I called that person back because I was running into the next appointment time. So, nothing's engraved in stone as far as time is concerned, but a lot of times, and we all do this, right? We meet with a doctor, for instance, and then we drive away and think, oh man, I meant to ask him blah, blah, or her this question or so forth. So please, I encourage people all the time. Our website is just loaded with information, with blog posts. Go to our Facebook Live episodes, like you said. It's just a plethora of information that will help you. And especially if you're like me, one of these people that 11:30 at night, oh man, gosh, I wish I knew the answer to that question, or I wish I'd asked that question. Go to the website. There is an extremely good chance that there's a blog post that we have written and posted on that very question you may have. Right. Yes, I want to encourage people to do that. And I want to encourage people, again, going back to this whole tax refund thing. Brad, I think you and I both have talked to any number of people that I would encourage them to call our office if they haven't filed tax returns for the last few years, or maybe they owe some old taxes and they just keep trying to hack it out with the IRS. We may have some great answers for you. I talked with a sweet person the other day, and this person indicated that they had been hammering away at taxes, at this tax debt. And I said, well, what tax year are we talking about? And she said, well, it was from 2005. And I thought, oh no, oh my goodness, there's a very good chance that those taxes are dischargeable in bankruptcy. She was beside herself. She had no idea that you could discharge taxes in bankruptcy. So, there's things like that, information like that on the website, but also don't hesitate to call if you've got one of those lurking questions back in the back of your mind and you keep thinking, I got to figure out a way to handle this and so forth. again, there is wisdom in a multitude of counselors, and we oftentimes need wisdom for our situation to handle our financial situation. And I also want to tell people, encourage people that, I've said this for years, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And so, a lot of times we get in our minds, well, I want this all handled yesterday. Well, oftentimes there are steps that we can take and help guide you through so that over the course of maybe some weeks or some months or whatever, then you finally arrive where you need to be. But, don't get discouraged looking at the elephant and thinking, I got to eat this whole thing. I got to do this whole thing. And in fact, I was recently speaking with a friend of mine, and she and her husband have they're older, and they've set their goals this year. They've decided to trim away the fat. And what that equates to is they are looking at different options that they can use, different discounts, contacting their insurance agent, seeing if they can get discounts on this, or, trimming back the fat on that. And part of their realization is what we were talking about earlier, realizing, I thought I needed this particular thing or that particular food or whatever, but maybe that's more of a want than a need. And just trying to rethink the way maybe that we've become accustomed to thinking. I think if that's anything in 2021 and moving beyond this pandemic and so forth, is we're all having to adjust our thinking. We're all having to think in new avenues and new realms. And you've got things that don't change. One of the things we were talking about, my friend and I, was I said this, triggered in my mind. And this has to do with saving and going back to the stimulus money, saving it if you can, or any of your tax refund and so forth, is, when a farmer plants seed. My husband is a big tomato farmer, tomato guy. He planted tomatoes this year that were over 11 feet tall, and that's pretty big. He's 6'8". So he's almost 7 feet tall. And I've got a picture of him out beside some of the tomato plants that were about 11 and 12 feet tall. But when he planted those seeds, they were seeds that were planted. He didn't go out and dig them up the next day and say, well, I don't have a harvest. Guess it's all over. Oh, well, sometimes things take time. And statistics show that new habits develop primarily, it takes about 30 days to really get a new habit sort of ingrained in your thinking and in your system. And so, if we think about from a farming perspective, farmers have to be very patient, and they put seed in the ground, but they also tend to that seed. They water it, they fertilize it, and so forth. And those are just basic principles that we can learn from farmers. For instance, it's not easy to save, and you can start small. That 11, 12 foot tomato plant started out as a seed, a tiny little seed. So you can start small by saving. If you need to use some of your stimulus for bills or getting caught up on things and so forth, great, do that. But if you can save any part of it, $100, $50, use that as your small start. There's a verse in the Bible that also says, don't despise the small beginnings. And I think that was God's way of telling us, it says in Genesis that throughout all of eternity, the one thing that will remain is seed time and harvest. And Richard this summer, he didn't get a harvest of tomatoes 2 weeks after he planted those tomatoes. He tended to them, he watered them, he fertilized them, and so forth. And then the harvest came several months later of beautiful, rich, ripe tomatoes. And we just had a plethora of tomatoes. We were giving them to neighbors, and hey, y'all come pick tomatoes. But the long and the short is that we often get discouraged so early on. And this is where writing that down, write down what you see yourself doing and where you see yourself at the end of the year. If you have a vision of saving $1,000 this year, that's a little less than $100 a month. That's great. Or if you saved $100 a month, that's $1,200 a year. In 5 years, you can save $6,000 by just saving $100 a month, putting that aside in a special account and don't touch it.
Yeah, so that's such great advice. I want to be respectful of your time, and we're nearing 50 minutes here, so I want to make sure we touch a couple of these questions.
Sure.
And I hate to cut you off because I'll get in trouble with my wife again when I cut you off, but because you give such great advice, Suzanne. But there are some specific issues here. You just made the comment, when you get your stimulus check, I understand you may need to pay some of your bills. I want to be clear here, which bills you pay are important. I've read information where people use this money, and I've heard, to pay down payday loans or to pay credit cards down. No, folks, use that money to keep a roof over your head, use that money to keep transportation so that you can get to your job, or if you don't have a job, so that you can find a job, and use it to feed your family. Don't use it to pay off this general unsecured debt that you have. I've read that a lot of the mortgage forbearance programs require you to use your best efforts. So you may want to use a little bit of that money to use to catch up on what you're behind on your mortgage payment, to catch up on what you're behind on your rent payment.
Yes.
We had a fascinating guest just a couple of weeks back that talked in more detail about this. So again, go back to the pages. Suzanne, this question, I know bankruptcy will ruin my credit, this person says. So shouldn't I try to work with a debt settlement company before I come to you?
Oh, that's amazing you just asked that question, because I had this conversation yesterday with someone that was considering working with a debt resolution company. And, I always draw from a consultation that I was having with someone years ago. I had met with them once. They decided not to file a bankruptcy. They were just going to explore other options. And that other option they decided to explore was they got into one of these debt resolution companies who was attempting, that's the operative word, attempting to work out a resolution with their creditors. And those creditors do not include mortgages, they do not include cars, and they do not include any kind of court action that's already been taken, already been filed. So let's just presume, though, that they're credit cards. That person had gone into this program, had paid literally thousands of dollars, was probably a year and a half into the program, and had no idea that one of the debts that was in the program was sold to a debt collector who didn't like the arrangement that the debt resolution company had made with the creditor. And so all of a sudden, unbeknownst to her, they weren't participating in the program, and she gets served with a lawsuit that moved pretty rapidly and was about to be garnished. And so she was back in my office, here a year and a half later, and, just devastated because she had spent all that money, all that time, and unfortunately, it got her very, very negative results, and with the lawsuit and then the potential garnishment. Now, she ended up filing a bankruptcy. She ended up getting back on her feet and recovering. And what I like to encourage people with is, so many people think that bankruptcy is just the devastating end, but it's not. It's actually the starting point. You are fresh out of the gate. When you file a bankruptcy and you receive your discharge, you don't have all this old debt that you're contending with anymore. And creditors look at that. Creditors, if you're with a debt resolution company, you've still got all that credit, all that old stuff that's being reported on your credit history. And in fact, it may wreak havoc on your credit history, because most of those are reporting 60, 90 days, 120 days past due, because the debt resolution company, it may take them 60, 90, 120 days, which is 6 months, 6 months practically with most of those, to even get started towards a resolution. So I'm not downing debt resolution companies. I know they have their purpose, but
I will most of them.
I know. I was going to say, please approach with much, much caution and consideration. And again, we do offer with the services that we offer beyond bankruptcy. Some people have found that they don't need to work with debt resolution companies, because we are able to check their credit for credit report disputes. We are able to find FDCPA actions, or violations, I should say, and bring actions and get those debts resolved.
I want to encourage our viewers, as I've said, all of our past Facebook Live episodes live on our Facebook pages and on our website. A couple months back, I did a Facebook Live with Los Angeles attorney Eric Clark on the very topic of working with debt resolution companies. Encourage viewers to go back to that episode for just a plethora of great information on the potential pitfalls of working with these type companies. Yeah. Suzanne, so question.
I'll go ahead with the next question. I do want to come back around real quick at some point to mortgage forbearances and so forth, just to mention something.
That's actually one of the questions I have here. Should I be using this money to catch up on either, this question is with rent, but my rent or my mortgage? Should I use my stimulus money for that purpose?
Some of that depends on what your mortgage company might be willing to do as far as working with you. Some of these mortgage companies, they start a forbearance and then that sort of rolls over into a loan modification. I would tell you, though, as you're working with them, if at all possible, to set this money aside. That's the most important thing. My friend, that she and her husband were trimming the fat, what she said was they were going to act like they never even received that stimulus money, at least for right now. So if there's a way to set that money aside and not touch it until you know what's going to happen, that's what I wanted to say about forbearances. Until you know what that end result is going to be, that would be best. Apartments are a little bit different. Rentals are a little bit different. Got to be in touch with your landlord and so forth. It is critical, obviously, to keep a roof over your head, but certainly if it's to the point where your landlord is threatening a termination of your lease and so forth, please, please, please speak with us before you do anything with that stimulus money, as far as possibly even having to pay them, because we want to give you the best legal advice on the avenue that you might want to consider taking in that realm. I know that there's a lot of car creditors that are, that have worked with people and extending, giving them extensions, putting payments at the end. A lot of times that's only, maybe one payment once a year, if that. So do consider that carefully. We are not a tight city like New York, for most of us if we're working, we have to have transportation. We have to have a car. So that is very, very, very important. But we want to give you also sound legal advice before you, for instance, use all of your stimulus money to catch up car payments. Please speak with one of us and let us help you. Let us look at where you're sitting with that to see if there's anything we can do, on any front to help you again save that money and hold on to that money. Does that make sense?
It makes great sense. We've got about 5 more minutes, so I want to knock out a couple of these, Suzanne, and okay. I'm going to help. We've got a question here. Should I pull money out of my retirement account to catch up on my bills? Folks, not until you talk to an attorney, not until you talk to one of us. Significantly, while that money is in your retirement account, most retirement accounts, it's protected from your creditors. They can't touch it, and you may need that money for your retirement. So don't pull it out yet. Make sure you get the advice of a good attorney, hopefully one of our attorneys, before you do so.
Right.
Small business owner here. I'm a business owner. Will there be any additional PPP loans? There is a second round of PPP loans. What would allow you to qualify? They're a little bit different than the first round. Encourage you to talk to your banker about that. Even though these are done as SBA loans, with these particular loans, you don't go to the SBA. Go to a banker and find out what your options are there. Suzanne, I got one more question I want you to address here. And this person, a lot of people have misconceptions. This question is, can medical bills be included in bankruptcy?
Oh, most certainly. And that's so funny you should ask that question, because I was just about to say, contacting us, I know can be difficult, but it is so important that you speak with someone that not only is an expert in the arena of bankruptcy and so forth, but we offer expertise in other arenas, financially, and can give you some great financial advice. Again, just because you're calling us does not mean you are going to be filing a bankruptcy.
Absolutely not.
Medical bills, all your bills, most debt can be included and discharged in bankruptcy. There are some parameters to that with tax debt and some other issues, but the long and the short is that most debt can be included in bankruptcy, has to be included in bankruptcy, and should be dischargeable. And the way I was going to relate this actually to the health field, and I was going to just encourage people again, if you have questions, if you're unsure about things, the law has become, in my opinion, as specialized as medicine. And personally, you don't need to call your dentist about, if I fell down a flight of steps years ago, and I thought I just sprained my ankle or my leg really badly. But as it turns out, I had this teeny tiny hairline fracture. Well, I wasn't going to be able to go to a dentist and get that reset. That's not their area of expertise. So I want to encourage people again, if you need some sound legal financial advice, please, please, please reach out to us, call us, let us talk with you. And there's no commitment that you don't have to, say, I'm going to do anything or pay us for anything. This is a free consultation, and we want to make sure that we cover all of your questions and get you on a page where you feel like, my goodness, okay, now I'm seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not an oncoming train.
Susanna, this is the second time I've had you on this Facebook Live. I could have you 100 more times because you're full of such good information. Folks, all of our Facebook Live episodes live on our Facebook page. They're on our website. If you know somebody that could benefit from what you've heard today, please refer them back here to watch this video and the advice that Suzanne's given. We've said a couple of times, you call our office, and I know I'm a bankruptcy attorney, but my first objective is to find a way to keep you out of bankruptcy.
That's right.
We want to help you. And if there's anything that should be clear after listening to my friend Suzanne Shin talk, are the things that are important to us at Bond & Bodis are faith, family, and finances. And if we can help you, please give us a call, go to our website. We are here.
I wanted to add one more thing, Brad, before we jump off the phone. And I certainly am saying this not to sound braggadocious, but I do happen to have two family members, my son and my husband, who both played on two national championship football teams. Roll Tide, if y'all couldn't. Which, yay, we won the other night. But more importantly, championships are built on vision, and they're built on steady progress. And I want to just encourage people that see yourself as a champion over your finances, even if you have to, the start gate is filing a bankruptcy. On the horse track, the horse starts at the start gate, but the finish line is at that point again, and they've taken the gates down. And it may take you a couple of times around the track. It may take you a year or so to get back on your feet, get reestablished, and so forth. But it can be such a great time and such a great learning experience. And starting small is just so very important. My husband played for Coach Paul Bear Bryant, and he used to say, and my husband used to have this, I used to have it in my office on a picture, championships are won or lost 1 yard at a time. And so don't give up on yourself. Be encouraged. There are great things ahead for your future. And call us and let us encourage you with where you are financially. I thank you so much, Brad, for letting me share this time today. It's been such a joy, and it always is, and I appreciate it so much. I appreciate the kind attention that listeners have given.
Thank you so much. We're going to do this again. To all of our viewers out there, thank you for your time. And if we can help, please know we're here. Please reach out. Suzanne, thank you for your time. Good luck, everybody, and God bless, and be safe.
God bless. Bye-bye. Thank you.